So good morning. My name is Ian Taylor and welcome to the Evident Proof demo. So myself and Matt Broden run these demos twice weekly around about 10 a.m. on a Tuesday and 4 p.m. on a Thursday London time. And the purpose of the demo is to give you guys an overview of what Evident Proof is, how it works. And then what we'll do is we'll run through a sample workflow from one of our clients, really looking at the way that they use the Evident Proof system to store their data immutably. So what is Evident Proof? Evident Proof is an enterprise platform for storing immutable proof of evidence. And what does this mean and why is this important to businesses? So this is how the platform and the technology works. What we do is we take your data hash or your data structure, and we convert that into something called a proof seal, which can be stored in an immutable way on a technology called the blockchain. Now, the blockchain has some unique properties as it stores data in a decentralized, distributed way across thousands of computers, meaning that that data is stored in a way that it's basically unhackable. So storing data in an immutable way means it can't be changed, it can't be tampered with, and it can't be hacked. So because of the way that the Evident Proof service stores your data, you could take that and use it later down the line to present it in a court of law. So this could be in a case of a patent scenario where somebody's challenged something, or an audit or a compliance scenario. So what we would do is then give you proof of your evidence. So we've got a number of clients using the system and service today. One of them is the largest supplier of government taxi licensing solutions to the UK local government. So really effectively, their line of business solution deals with the checks and balances around the governance of the issuing of a taxi license. So why is it important that this data is stored in a mutable way? Well, a lesson learned really was the core to this. About a year ago, there were a number of articles in the press which were stated that in last year alone, 150,000 taxi licenses were issued to drivers, with some with criminal convictions, drink driving bans. Realistically, the list could go on. So at this point, there's a real burden of proof on the company, more importantly, the local government, to prove that they've carried out these checks and balances and that the results that they're presenting have somehow not been falsified by somebody who may have gained access to that data. So using the Evident Proof service, they're able to prove that these checks and balances have been carried out and that data essentially hasn't been tampered with. So what we can do today is just walk through a typical workflow of how these guys are using the application. We can't show you sort of a full line business application, but what we've created is sort of a trimmed down version in a standalone demo. And effectively what we're going to look at today is realistically what could be any client's line of business application that we would be able to take the data from and store that immutably on the Evident Proof system. So let's run through a quick way of how we can store data on the Evident Proof platform. So what I'm going to do now is go into our very simple line of application that we built. Now, essentially, the information we're looking at here could be any business's sort of in-house line of application that we're going to look at storing data from and pushing it from their application and taking that into the Evident Proof service. So what I'm going to do for the demo is just very quickly create a license in here. And then we're going to make sure that license is active. We're going to confirm that we've carried out a criminal check record. Now, of course, there could be a number of other documents that would be in the real line of application, and these could all be uploaded and assigned as well. We're going to put in another fictitious piece of information, and we're also going to confirm that we've done an identity check here. Now, obviously, with the identity check, again, there could be hundreds of pieces of documentations associated with that and scans just to confirm that we carried out those. So if I create that license, and as you can see here, the license has been now created, and that data has now been passed through to the Evident Proof platform. So let's have a little bit of look at the data and how it's come over to us. So let's describe the data that we're looking at here. So first we've got the dispatch details. So we've got the dispatch ID. So this is really the API call into the service, and it's a dispatch of the evidence records into the evident proof service. So it's just showing you the idea of that information there. And then we've got the dispatch evidence itself. So if we run through the structure of the evidence a little bit. Now, the structure is a fixed schema, and this is the way that we'd have worked with you to present the data to us. So this fixed schema is essentially ensuring that we can correlate between the evidence and proof still stored on the blockchain. And then we've got the where. So essentially, this could be a geolocation, it could be an IP address, it could be the IP address of the SaaS application that you were using. And then, of course, very importantly, we've got the timestamp. Now, this is obviously quite an important piece of information. This here is being uploaded onto the blockchain, so it will be used as proof. And effectively, we've then got the PSU. So the PSU is a cross-reference that allows you to check and relate back to the same data in your line of business application that you may have uploaded. Now, this data really could be a single key or a compound key or an ID or an asset. This is really whatever you need to correlate back to your source data in your systems. So we've got a key here and a value, which will be quite familiar to any software developers as a way of storing evidence. And in this scenario, as you can see, we're only really storing a single value key. In fact, a dispatch could store many pieces of evidence. This could be forms, documents, you name it, we can store it. And then we've got the JSON value here. So really, this is just a representation of the forms of data, and this could be a single field, it could be multi-field, it could be in the form of the English dictionary if you wanted to, or War and Peace. Then finally, we've got the seal, so the proof seal, and this is really a hash of all the data. And effectively, what the proof seal is used for is for a checksum verification of the data. And none of your data is revealed within this seal, but what it does prove is that it does prove your data itself. So we got the dispatch receipt. So the dispatch receipt is really a return to you by the API call, and effectively the receipt is your method of saying that this data has been immutably stored on the evident proof blockchain, and here's how I could navigate back to that by using this unique key here as well. So finally, we've got the proof certificate requests. So the proof certificate is literally a document that pulls together all of the information that we've discussed, and you could take this to present it in a court of law, and it would confirm that the data was stored in an immutable way on the blockchain through the evident proof platform. So let's just say we're a year down the line and somebody's come back to us and they're challenging this piece of data or all of these sets of data to say that, you know, we haven't carried out the correct checks or we didn't go through the correct governance process. So what we can then do is we can produce a proof certificate. So this would be done through typically an API call, but I'm obviously creating it manually here. And as you can see, what's happened here is when we create a proof certificate, we put out a request, and this goes off to the blockchain, checks the data, and then the seal finally checks that it matches our source data and everything is confirmed. So if I click on here, this is the actual proof certificate itself. Now, as you can see, everything looks pretty familiar here, except we now have a transaction ID, which is really the key to the certificate and the chain. And this is what we can do to prove this taxi licensing example of data being stored immutably. So as you can see from the screen here, realistically, this is a very basic data structure and everything. All of our proof certificates, we can work with you to customize them. The data itself we're using is really just an example here. It could be any line of application or your business applications data, and what we can do is work with you to assess which parts of the data would be required by you to be stored immutably, so you can protect yourself in the future to present them in a court of law in this proof certificate way. So essentially that's the Evident Proof service. We'll be carrying out another demo that will be Thursday at 4 p.m. If you've got any more questions, pop them over on Telegram, and either myself or one of my colleagues will answer them. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me.